Good evening, everyone. We are back, resuming, I should say, our Studio Ghibli retrospective. Took a week off last week, nice little bit of a break, and we are back to just sort of finish it all off, really. After this, we've only got 2 more weeks of it, two left to do, and we'll announce what one we're covering next week. And then I think we'll probably be doing like a ranking video maybe after that point. And then, yeah, that's another big animation retrospective done. We've done Disney, we've done Don Bluth, and then finally all the Studio Ghibli movies.
And this one will go to number 2 or 3.
This was a really good one. Again, like all of these, we pretty much haven't seen before. We usually go in cold to these things. Myself, I watch the original Japanese language version with the subtitles. You watch the dubbed version. And I think just consistently across the board, Ghibli have been really, really good with their dubs overall in terms of the voice cast that they get and still conveying the story. Nothing really gets lost in translation as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, there was one that was really boring. I can't remember who. There was like which one it was where the characters did sound bored, but it wasn't.
I think that was Howl's Moving Castle, wasn't it? Was that with Christian Bale as...
That was the one that's supposed to be great, and it was like... Yeah.
I think that's both of our controversial take, isn't it? But we both have the same opinion on it, so...
It was a bit like The Green Mile. It's supposed to be great, but it's really not.
Oh, I can't. But yeah, When Marnie Was There is the one that we're talking about today, directed by Hiromasa Yonebayashi. I'm probably absolutely butchering that pronunciation. He's directed one other Studio Ghibli film before this one, which was Arrietty, which we both really enjoyed. I thought that was a really fun adaptation. And this is it. After this, he left the company and joined Studio Ponok, P-O-N-O-C, Ponok. I'm going to say Ponok.
Yo.
Oh, sorry?
You said
Ponok. Oh, okay. And then apparently this is also the final work for one of the longest running Studio Ghibli animators, which is Makiko Futaki, and he died 2 years after this film was made. So it's sort of like an end of an era, really, for a lot of the things with this one. But this was met with massive positive praise. It was actually nominated at the, I want to say, the 88th Academy Awards for Best Animated Feature. Lost to Inside Out, which I really like Inside Out. They're very different films, so I won't take the win away from Inside Out. But it was very much around that time where Pixar or Disney were kind of winning it every year a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, very, very tough category. I'm trying to remember what else was nominated that year. I think it was Anomalisa, which is really, really good. Shaun the Sheep, the movie, and then this one. I think there was one other one which I'm forgetting the name of now. Yeah, so I guess we'll go over the overall plot of this one, and then we'll dive into it because there's definitely a lot of positives with this one. This was almost like a sleeper hit for me. This one, as I was watching it, I was just fully engrossed in the story. There's a little bit of a mystery there. It's almost like a psychological drama a little bit, and you're trying to understand what the film's getting at. And
very Woman in Black kind of, you don't know what's there and what's not, and it's quite, yeah.
Yeah, I was messaging you as I was watching it earlier this morning, and I was like, is this a ghost story? Is this a past life film or reincarnation or something like that? We won't spoil it just yet. We'll save that towards the end of the review. But yeah, the story is essentially, I'm just going to go by IMDb. It says, Anna, a shy 12-year-old girl, is sent to spend time with her aunt and uncle who live in the countryside. When she meets Marnie, the two become best friends, but Anna gradually discovers that Marnie is not quite who she appears to be, which is a very cryptic and...
It's always that. It's never what it appears to be. Imagine it was. She meets a girl, and it's exactly what you think. You wouldn't watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so predictable. Before we actually dive into the characters with this thing, we've mentioned this in a few Studio Ghibli films before. I've always mentioned how I really like the idyllic countryside. I think it captures nature and sort of these like small communities, this just nice picturesque landscape absolutely perfectly. And this is towards the top of the list for me in terms of all the films that have done that. All the Ghibli films have been very successful in that regard, but I absolutely fell in love with this place, this environment, the wetlands, the small village and the manor house and everything. It was such a striking, perfect look. And for the, what was it, like an hour and 40 minutes or whatever this film was, it felt like I was living there. And it was just like a really nice escape. So they absolutely nailed it. It was actually based on some places in Japan. So I think it's called Hokkaido in Japan, where you've got like the wetland environment. And then the manor house was based on something else. The silo was based on something from Norfolk.
Like,
so
yeah, that was it.
it's a culmination of all these different things, but it's just absolutely gorgeous. Like I was actually really struggling to know which sort of like still image to use as the background for this, because there's so many great shots in this film, but something about the wetlands and like the wildlife and the seabirds and it was just wonderful. It was just so nice. It felt like I had like a little getaway vacation there when I was watching this film.
Yeah, the whole animation was brilliant as well. It was very sharp. To be fair, it wasn't like the last one. It wasn't this unique, like, oh my god, this is different.
Yeah.
It was very what you get from anime, but it was just everything was sharp. The colors were bright. Everything was just amazing about it. It wasn't something that was like, oh, this is a bit dull. It was samey in the sense of it wasn't anything new. It wasn't anything I've never seen before, but it stood out of being something just looked amazing. It didn't try and do anything different, but that's fine. It was what it was, but it did everything right.
The colors always pop, don't they? Very often in these Studio Ghibli films, you have these lush, bright, vivid green meadows or woodlands or whatever, and you have like the blue of the ocean or the sky or whatever, and it's just usually these two colors just offset with each other. But yeah, I don't know if it's something, because I watch these on Netflix and they're all in HD and whatnot, so I don't know if these are like upscaled Blu-ray 1080p versions that are available that we're watching.
It's not that old, to be fair. It's 11 years old, but it's not that old. It's not like it's, I remember when it came out, I remember seeing it because Ghibli's always been a thing where I'd never watched any of these before. Yeah, I watched bits, like I say, like the last one, I was surprised. I was like, I've definitely seen this, but majority was I'd not really seen them. And I remember when this came out, I was working at HMV at the time, and I remember it being right at the front, being this new thing, and I was always like, I need to watch this. I need to watch these movies at some point. So I always remember it being there. So I do remember when it came out, but yeah, actually, that's weird that it's 11 years.
Yeah, I know. It's just, I still look at like this 2014. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a new movie then. I'm like, oh, well, I suppose it is relatively, but probably not anymore. It's funny how time works, isn't it? Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. It's crazy how time keeps flying. Say that again, sorry?
People still bang on about it like it was yesterday.
Indeed. So just, yeah, the environment of this thing was absolutely wonderful. And this is actually based on a book, so I'd be interested to know how the original book goes over. So the book was written by Joan G. Robinson.
Sorry. I'd be interested as well. I mean, I know the sales did really, really well after the movie came out as well. So I know it got it got like a whole new fan base. But yeah, it would be something I'd be interested in. It came out in the 60s, didn't it?
1967, yeah. British author Joan G. Robinson. Now, like most of these Studio Ghibli films, when they're based on a book, they change the setting. So we changed the setting, which is, I haven't read the book. I'm assuming it's probably set in England and they've moved it over to Japan. That's fair enough. I always think as long as you retain the core, like the story and the sentiment of whatever the book is, then it's fine. You can do whatever you want to with your own adaptation. Obviously, it's nice if you keep it really, really faithful, but sometimes as long as you keep the themes and the spirit behind it, then I'm fine with any changes that need to be made. One thing that was retained from the book was Marnie's appearance, the very striking blonde hair, blue eyes, which Miyazaki, I think he was just like a consultant at the time that they went to. He didn't like that. He wanted to change her appearance to, dark hair, dark eyes, more Japanese or whatever.
Girl in the Ring.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm glad that they didn't update the look. Even she speaks in Japan. Well, in my version, she spoke in Japanese. She's in Japan and whatnot. I thought it was a very striking look, and I don't think it detracts. I don't think it's like this whole marketing ploy of, notice us, because I think that was another thing that Miyazaki was against with the marketing of this thing, is like, oh, you've just gave her blonde hair and blue eyes in order to stand out on the marketing and everything. I'm like, no, if that's the description of the character and you want to retain that, then I don't see an issue with that. You know, I thought it was fine. It did give it a unique look, but it wasn't like this notice me kind of aspect to the film. I just took it for what it was in the film. And I think when you have Anna and Marnie standing side by side, I think it is like a really striking dynamic, like appearance to the pair of them.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's because they look very good. Because Anna's got that very sort of like she's got short hair,
Quite tomboyish, yeah.
Like she's that girly kind of. It contrasted so well. They were very, very different characters, but they had this very sort of similarity between them. Like even when she's talking about like you're lucky to be a foster child, all that sort of stuff. Like there's a whole, there's what's the word? Not mirrored, the other way. Whatever the word is, I've lost. But you know what I mean? When they're contrasting, whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? There's that whole difference between them, which works really, really well, and it's a way that they also use, and you find the similarities between them as well.
Yeah, and it's what I like about this film and why I was so gripped by the story was when you're experiencing it, you don't know what's real. You questioning everything. There's moments where she's spending these. This is going to sound dodgy, but like nightly escapades with Marnie. Whether they're dancing or exploring or rowing or whatever, and then it'll cut back and Anna will be asleep, dreaming, and you think, oh, is it all in her head? Is she experiencing it? And then this old manor house that Anna is entranced by, that's in the wetlands, a new family's moving in, so they're renovating it. And the little girl who's moving in there, she speaks to Anna, and she initially calls Anna Marnie and says that I found a diary. And it seems like Anna has this past knowledge sort of in fragments. She remembers this past life. And that's when I messaged you. I thought, oh, is this some kind of reincarnation thing? Is it a ghost story? Maybe Marnie is sort of possessing this house and Anna's a ghost here. So I was questioning all these things, and that's what kept the story so enthralling and entrancing to me, to the point where when we was gearing up towards the end, I didn't know if we were going to get a clear-cut answer. And this might be a drawback, I don't know, because it does tie all the themes up together and really sort of gives Anna's character some closure. We do get a very, very clear-cut answer by the end of this thing, and it's kind of all explained to us. Now, what did you think to that? Did you prefer it when it was more ambiguous and you didn't know what the story was getting at, or do you like that we actually did get a definitive answer?
I always like when you don't get definitive answers, but I think it worked for what it was. I think it worked that we got that because it's still, I don't know. I mean, when you leave things ambiguous and all that, it leaves it so you kind of make up the end. And I always do like that when you see things. I know the author and the writer and whoever, like web form media it is, has their mind of what it should be, but what I like is when you as a viewer have your own mind made up on it. So in some ways I was a little bit sort of like, it would have been nice to keep it a bit more ambiguous, but I did like what we got. I thought like, okay, that was quite nice. It was just a nice little ending to tie it up. But if I had to pick, I'd say it would have been nice if it was left more ambiguous, I think.
Mm-hmm. We've just had a comment come in, and I've just Googled this, and it actually does sound really similar now. I've never heard of this before. Kurt the Gamer says, I got Tom's Midnight Garden vibes from this one. I don't know. Have you ever heard that book? It came out in the 50s or something.
I don't have a clue what it's about. I know it's about a dude called Tom.
Yeah, so I've just checked it here. So the author's Philippa Pearson. This is the premise of the story. Tom is a modern boy living under quarantine with his aunt and uncle in a city flat, part of a converted building that was once a country house during the 1880s to 1890s. At night, he slips back in time to the old garden where he finds a girl playmate called Hattie. Hattie is a princess, or so she says. Yeah, based on that, definitely very, very similar premise, I would say, out of the two of them. And that did technically come out before. So... yeah.
No, I mean it's that whole you don't know if that person's there, if that person's real. And I like that. And that's been done many, many times. There's loads and loads of times you can think, is a character real? Is there are these things really happening? American Psycho, is it really happening? It's that whole, and I do like that because it leaves you wondering. And I think when I was younger, I didn't like that as much because I was like, yeah, but I want to know these things. And as I got older, I started to really like when you don't know these things, because it was like, I don't need to know. And the Star Wars prequels were a very, very good example of, I don't need to fucking know what goes on. I don't need to know how they did this. I don't need to, see Darth Vader watching the Death Star construction and, where they put in the air conditioning and all that crap. I don't need that. I just wanted to blow up planets. And that's where I was really started to think, it is nice just to, you make it up in your own head. You have that idea, having that whole, because, I mean, without making too much about Star Wars, that was a very good kind of apocalyptic kind of, it's a world in decline. It's this is what happened in the past. We didn't need that. We didn't need to see it, and yeah, sometimes it is nice having that. So yeah, if I had a choice, I would say it'd be nice if it was left more ambiguous. But I think for what it is and what we got and the kind of audience, it makes sense,
Yeah, I think I'm going to try and keep it vague throughout the rest of the review. Maybe we'll do like a spoiler warning towards the end, because I do think a lot of the enjoyment I had with this film was sort of like the first 3/4 before we got a definitive answer as to what went on. But even then, the answer that we do get, it does tie up Anna's story. I really liked Anna's character, actually. I liked all the characters in this, but I thought she was a really likable protagonist. A girl who's suffering really low self-esteem, kind of like an identity crisis as well, in that she's sort of questioning why her parents gave her up, and she's got all of these past memories maybe that are coming in from her interactions with Marnie. Her foster parents are really nice to her and love her, but she doesn't believe that that's a love that's justified, because she saw this notice that came in that her foster parents are getting money for keeping her, essentially. So she thinks, oh, well, the only reason that they're keeping me is because they want money. And, it's not for me. It's not for some kind of like deep love for me. So, yeah, very, very isolated girl. And I thought they showed that very, very well through her sort of like panic attacks and asthma attacks and everything like that. The voice acting was incredible in the version that I watched as well. I know you watched the English dub, so I think is it Haley Steinfeld? Is that her name?
Yeah, it's Haley something that is like Seinfeld, but it's not Seinfeld.
Yeah, I think it's Steinfeld. I can't remember. She's a really good actress anyway, so I was wondering how the voice acting was in the version that you watched.
I think the voice acting was brilliant in all of it. I think the chemistry between them all was great. I don't think anyone sounded bored. I don't think anyone sounded... what's her aunt's name? Does she have a name? She's just called Auntie, isn't she?
She does. Is that the one who's played by Kathy Bates in your version? Oh no, that's someone else, isn't it?
The chick that looks like a dude, basically.
Yeah,
they all just the chemistry. I think it works well.
I think
the animation as well, because sometimes you get the animation doesn't match the voice acting. You know what I mean? And this all matched really, really well. I think back to 2001 in games where they'd have voices and it just wouldn't match what they would. And this was like completely, I mean, obviously I know we've come a long way since 2001, but I'm just saying it's the complete opposite, where everything worked well, the facial expressions, every single thing. I mean, the guy, he was played by the dude from Step Brothers, wasn't he? Well, no, you wouldn't know that. In the English dub.
Oh, John C. Reilly. Yeah.
Yes. And I think he came across really, really well. I don't think anyone sounded robotic. I don't think anyone sounded, no one sounded like they shouldn't be there. It all worked really, really well. The characters, when they spoke to each other, because the thing you've got to think as well when it comes to voice acting is they're not recording their lines there and there and there. Like, it's kind of, you've got to fit this around it, because even when they do things like when Christopher Lee did The Hobbit, obviously he was in a completely different country. So sometimes it's I don't know how exactly this was done, but sometimes the voice actors have really got to work well with the actors to portray like they're really close to each other. They're actually hugging each other. They're actually doing this rather than, but they're doing it from having never met each other. Like, what was it? Is it Silence of the Lambs where Anthony Hopkins never met, what's her name? Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, yeah. Really? They were never on set together?
I can't remember. I feel like that's the one, but I know there's a few cases, but I do feel like they never met. I can't remember.
That I didn't know about that. That blows my mind if that's the case. Yeah, it's
But
Jodie Foster, isn't it? Jodie
that's it,
Foster.
Jodie Foster.
Yeah.
But the point is, it's like, you know, they do really, really well at sort of like, they're not going to all be in rooms hugging each other and doing that. That's not going to be happening. But it does really well at, it just blends perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I just saw that Gina Davis was in this as well. I met her a few weeks ago. I went to Liverpool Comic Con. She was absolutely amazing. Really, really classy woman. Awesome. I just went up to the day and I said, like, what kind of music you're into? I asked that to everyone because I think it's a bit different. And she said Prince and Led Zeppelin. I was like, fuck yes. Great, great taste in music. So yeah, no, I didn't realize she was in this film. That's really cool. Yeah, I loved. I thought it was an amazing relationship between the two characters in this film with Anna and Marnie. And as you mentioned, there's a bunch of scenes where they sort of talk about their own individual problems and how they're both almost jealous of each other's lives. They both got their problems, but together, you know, they work through them and everything. And there's moments where Anna tries to step in and help Marnie overcome some of her fears. She's got this fear of like this big silo thing that's near the manor house because a lot of the maids and stuff really bullied her and used to threaten her as a little girl, saying like, we're going to lock you in the silo. So she's got this innate fear of it, and Anna tries to step in to help her through it. And then Marnie is also there for Anna. It's this beautiful relationship that's just interwoven throughout the film. And as I say, as you get towards the end, you do get a clear-cut answer as to what that relationship is and why she's seeing Marnie and experiencing all of these things and whatnot. And when you get the answer, you're like, oh, okay, everything does sort of like slot into place. And it does work for the story. And more importantly, it does fit, it does tie up Anna's character, who's got this, you know, identity crisis, self-esteem issues. And when she does get told this revelation, it does put her in a good place. And when we end the film, she's going off to a better life. She's reached that closure level now. She's received that closure from everything, and she's got a clearer head and can move on with her life, and she can step forward. And I think it's just a really positive message. I think one of the reasons that this film was made, I think the director says here, let me just try and find it here. Yeah, so he wanted it to be encouraging to children in Japan who felt lonely and isolated, and hoped that, quote, when they see Marnie, maybe they could take a little step forward, end quote. And I think that's just a really beautiful sentiment to it. And I think that's achieved very, very effectively in the final film. This might actually be, I'm already trying to think ahead to when we do the ranking, and this is probably actually going to be quite high up for me. I don't know how high, but
it doesn't beat Totoro. It just doesn't.
Yeah, I don't think anything's going to beat Totoro on your list. I mean, spoiler alert, your S tier is probably going to be My Neighbor Totoro. We've still got two more. I'm not holding my breath, but I'm pretty sure Totoro is going to be your number one favorite. I mean, I've already mentioned what my favorite one is, and that hasn't really changed, I don't think. But this is probably going to be A tier. Genuinely, like I always say this, like after I watch these films, some more so than others, they genuinely do stay with me, and I do still think about them. There's aspects to all of these films, whether it's an animation style or whether it's, you know, a piece of music or a certain piece of imagery, still image setting, whatever it happens to be, that has stayed with me throughout most of these films. And it could be because I'm pretty fresh to this one. I watched it this morning, so it's still very much in my mind, but I just love the feeling that this film gave me. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous as an animated feature. I think the animation is flawless, pretty much like most of these films, but I love the setting. I thought the characters, and it'd be interesting to see how close this does tie into the actual book that it's based on. I know one aspect that was added to it was the whole fact that she's into sketching and the whole artist thing, and probably that other character she bumps into who's sketching the manor house. I think that was all an additional thing in this film that doesn't feature in the original book, but I really liked that aspect to it. I thought it was a nice bit of characterization to her, and, you know, these images from her past and whatnot that she's realizing on the canvas or on the page. I thought it was all really nice. So yeah, gorgeous film. And I'll also say the music as well was absolutely sublime in this film. Absolutely gorgeous.
Music, that's that theme.
Well, yeah, this isn't Joe Hisaishi who did this one. This is, oh the god, this is a name and a half. Wish me luck. Takatsugu Muramatsu. Nailed it. Absolutely fucking nailed it. Anyway, Muramatsu did the score to this. Beautiful. It just tied in with the imagery. It was just, yeah, I loved it. It's just so sublime, so idyllic. And when you're seeing these, these vistas of the wetlands and the when they're on the boat in the middle of the water and these quaint little towns and whatnot, and you've got this wonderful, beautiful, dreamlike score that's woven throughout it. It was just an absolute pleasure to watch this one.
It was.
And
Yeah. That's what the kind of movie. It was a nice movie. It was. It like you say, it felt like it was a nice setting. I think all the characters were really not. You know what I mean? It wasn't one of those like there wasn't really a time where it felt boring either. There wasn't a time where it felt unnecessary. There wasn't a time where it was, oh, this is just expedition. This is just this. It all felt very, very necessary. I think it was one of the best paced ones as well. One of my favorite in terms of pacing, because I know with these Studio Ghibli ones, they do go on a lot. Like they don't, when you get westernized movies, they kind of try and cap it like an hour and a half. I mean, this was an hour and 40, but you know, I mean, that hour and a half, hour and 40, whatever. Studio Ghibli, it kind of, sometimes you get those 2 hours and what was the longest one? 2 hours and 40, was it?
Yeah, that was the one that the Tale of the Princess Kaguya, wasn't it? It was like 2:20 or 2:13 or something like that.
I mean, that one was obviously, you know, quite good, but like they kind of just keep going and going and going. And this didn't, it just felt all necessary.
Yeah. It was a very, very tight story, tight screenplay. And I think originally the director turned this one down because he mentioned that apparently, quote, he thought it would be very difficult to visualize it as a film. But then for whatever reason, he conceived new ideas for the story, and then he sort of fell in love with the idea again. And then, you know, as we know, he's the director. But yeah, 2 Studio Ghibli movies, Arrietty and this one. And I don't know if those 2 movies are really ones that people talk about all that much with Studio Ghibli. They almost seem like they're like underrated gems a little bit in the entire catalogue. This one's certainly more so. I mean, I did love Arrietty. I thought it was a really fun, different adaptation. And again, the imagery in that and the sense of scale and whatnot. I would just go and watch our review for Arrietty. But there's a certain like distinctive quality about these 2 films in the Studio Ghibli catalogue that I think often gets overlooked, which I think is a bit of a shame because, as I say, like this is a relatively simple story, but there's a lot of ambiguity to it until we get the explanation. But as you're experiencing it, you're questioning it, you're trying to understand what's going on. There's almost like this mystery going on, this potential ghost story or whatever it happens to be. I just thought it was absolutely enthralling. It definitely held my attention throughout the runtime, and when the credits hit, you just sort of go like, and it's just you're glad you experienced it. It was just a lovely, lovely film. So a few comments here. We've got number one, we've got bath time in the comments. I hope you're doing good, man. And Kurt the Gamer says it's very interpretive as well. It's never confirmed whether it was time travel or just a simulation of a past event. And when my brother saw it, he interpreted it as Anna imagining the entire thing. Interesting. And then Kurt says this is one of the best ones. I'm agreeing with that. And I never thought, when I was sort of like reading them, and I know you can't judge a book by its cover just from a title or front cover, I thought this was going to be more of I thought it was probably going to be solid, but I thought maybe it was just going to be, you know, one of the average ones, one that you watch, you experience, and you're like, okay, yeah, moving on, and you kind of forget about it. No, this is sitting on 7.6, which is a good score. This is sitting just underneath The Wind Rises. Personally, I preferred this one to The Wind Rises. And it's just sitting a little bit above from Up on Poppy Hill. And rating wise, it breaks even with Arrietty. So I don't know. I don't always go by IMDb scores. You know, have your own opinion on it.
I never do it because they always shit all over it. It's like you never read Wikipedia plots either. It ruins it. There are some things you just don't do.
Mm-hmm. I think I've pretty much said everything I can on When Marnie Was There, because as I say, I don't want to really go into all-out spoilers in case someone's watching this and hasn't checked it out.
The reason they made the ending as it did was, like you say, it's satisfactory, and I think they wanted that. I don't think they wanted some big ambiguous thing. I think they wanted it to have a satisfactory ending, which I can understand, because I think ambiguous endings sometimes do have a very, you go, hang on, like you kind of leave feeling that, and they just wanted a nice. Yeah, so like I say, I think it works for what it is in terms of ending wise. I wouldn't change the ending. Like, it's not. Yes, I would have preferred, but that's just me. But I wouldn't change it. I think it was done fine. I don't think it's like, yeah, but I would have changed it. I think everything. I don't think there's really a single bit I would change. I don't think there's anything I go, yeah, but that bit's a bit. You know what I mean?
I think it's because you have one character that monologues and explains the entire past and history and the ins and outs of everything, what happened and who Marnie was and the whole situation. It kind of reminds me a little bit of you've seen Psycho, right? The
I've
original
seen
Alfred Hitchcock.
Psycho's brilliant.
Yeah. So you know how you have the ending, and granted this was probably because of the time period and people hadn't seen a film like this before, or certainly a character like Norman Bates and the intensity of that and the psychological complexity to a character like that. So you have the bit with, is it like the doctor or the psychiatrist at the end, and goes, now see here, the whole situation was this. Norman Bates was dressing as his mother because he had some kind of complex. And he just explains all of the nuance to the people in the back who were missing out on the plot because they were in the cheap seats. And he just, for like 10 minutes, he just monologues and explains everything that we already knew because we watched the movie and we can understand that. But it was just, I guess, to soften the blow to audiences who might be creeped out by this, or,
Wouldn't it just ruin it if they did that at the end of American Psycho? If they just explained it, you're like,
yeah, a guy just comes in and just tells you what it, and that's what I mean. So I think it's handled well in this film, and it doesn't sort of like ruin the film at all for me. But I do wonder how it would have gone over if it was more ambiguous, which the film seemed like it was going for. But I do like that we get an answer with this, because sometimes with films that leave you with an ambiguous ending, you have to be very, very careful with it, because sometimes it can work and it can heighten the film and it can make you keep coming back. And every time you watch it, you notice something different, or you have a different interpretation. And those are the ones that do it better. Sometimes it feels like they're done for like artsy wankery and are just very, very frustrating when you don't get an answer. It feels like, well, I've just wasted all this time and you're giving me nothing. I've got nothing from this. There's nothing to take away from it. And I didn't have that with this one. It does tie into Anna's character, and it does help that character reach a place of closure. And you do get that wonderful character arc and character progression for her, which, as she continues on with her life with this newfound closure and outlook on life, essentially. So it works for the character, it works for the theme and the overall story. I do wonder what it would be like watching this film a second time, having that knowledge of everything. I'm wondering if that would go over slightly differently.
I don't think it would, because I thought that slightly with the whole, like, what does this say? I think it's all still very, I don't think that I don't think it ruins it at all. I think, like I say, I think it's a nice, satisfactory ending, but I think watching it again, it's still a mysterious sort of tone, and the way like the characters within the house as well act. I think, I don't think it ruins it at all.
I think that would probably do it for our review. So I'm going to do an honorable mention of a film now, because you actually mentioned this to me before we went live, and I thought, oh God, we haven't slotted this into our retrospective. There is a film from 2016 called The Red Turtle, which was like a co-production. It was an international co-production between Studio Ghibli and then a few other French companies as well. Now, currently, we don't have that one in our retrospective. I'm going from a list here of films. This is from IMDb, a list of all movies from Studio Ghibli, and that movie isn't included. It has included some of the TV movies and some of the shorts, like we did Ocean Waves. We almost forgot to do Ocean Waves, and then one of our very kind commenters were like, you're just missing out Ocean Waves? And I thought, oh God, there's another one. And luckily we caught it in time and we managed to do it. So next week's one is actually a TV movie, which was also a collaboration of Studio Ghibli and a couple of other companies, which is The Earwig and the Witch. So we are including that one. It's the lowest rated one out of all of them. It's computer generated imagery. It just looks wrong. When Aardman Productions, famed for doing, claymation, plasticine, stop motion animation films. Do you remember when they did Flushed Away, which was they did it with DreamWorks, and DreamWorks pushed for it to be in CGI, and the whole time you're watching it going, this feels wrong that Aardman are doing this. This should be in plasticine. I have a feeling that that's going to be the case for the Earwig and the Witch. We're going to be watching that thinking, well, this isn't Studio Ghibli. We should be seeing like this beautiful hand-drawn animation. You know what I mean?
We're gonna miss hand-drawn animation again. Like, remember when Disney stopped doing it, and we were like, "Ah, we're done with the hand-drawn animation." I really hope that. Well, the next one afterwards is hand-drawn, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is what I mean. It's sort of like the odd one of the family. Again, I don't want to go by IMDb ratings all the time. It is the lowest rated at 4.7. Which is a big drop off from some of the previous ones. So I don't know. Luckily, it's only an hour and 22 minutes. So it's probably one of the shorter ones that we're doing. But yeah, we have that. And then concluding with The Boy and the Heron, which is relatively recent. That came out in 2023. So, and that'll do it. So, I mean, if there is like a massive outcry saying you haven't gone for completion and you haven't done the Red Turtle, we might cover that at some point. I'm not ruling it out completely. And I've heard it is actually very good, to be honest, as well. But that could maybe be like one of those additional ones we did for the Disney retrospective when we had a bot, I think, saying like, "Why aren't you doing Disney's Dinosaur?" So we did Disney's Dinosaur. That was it. So yeah, next week is Earwig and the Witch. And then we're concluding with The Boy and the Heron. And then I think if we just get in before Christmas, we might do like a ranking video of all of our, we'll just rank all of the Studio Ghibli films, which we can probably do in one video. Don't know whether we're going to do separate videos like we did with the Disney ones, but there were 64 movies that we had to rank for those. Whereas these ones, there's only like, 24 total each. So yeah, in the meantime, we want to hear your thoughts on this movie. So let us know your thoughts on When Marnie Was There, your interpretation of it. I guess you might be going into spoiler territory, but that's fine because we're done with the video now and people can check this out. And I do encourage people to check out this film if you haven't seen it. If you do love Studio Ghibli or just animated films in general, I think this is one that's probably overlooked by a lot of people. And more people need to see this film. It's a wonderful little film. And do consider subscribing to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. Speaking of movie reviews, discussions, and live streams, we will be live again quite late, Monday night. We have got tickets to go and see Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair, a film that I never thought we'd get the chance to see, ever, because it was super, super exclusive at Tarantino's cinema, wherever it is. And then, yeah, it was just like a casual drop, wasn't it? It was just like, oh, yeah, I'm releasing The Whole Bloody Affair. We thought initially it was just in US cinemas, but thankfully it was really down to it. Feel like we didn't get the news till really, really late. We were like refreshing apps, and
it wasn't done 20 years afterwards. It was done like it was really weird. They missed the anniversary.
I know 2 years ago you could have done this shit. Bang on the 20th anniversary for it, but no, we get it now, and I'm not complaining that we're getting it. So it's just a very long sit. So we have got tickets for Monday. I think it is actually released Friday this week, I think, isn't it? Or Saturday or Friday. I can't remember. I think it's Friday. But we're seeing it on Monday, 6:30 p.m. showing. And I don't think it's all said and done till like 11:30 in the PM. But we will be live afterwards. It's probably going to be a late one at midnight. So I'm thinking, do we push it to the day after? I think we should just get our thoughts as soon as we come out of the cinema for that. Because I think we're both going to be riding the high from that film. Because we both love that film dearly. We've both got a lot to say about that film because it probably is one of the most sort of like, it's definitely one of the most important films that I watched growing up. It's like one of my formative years kind of films.
It'll be one of those. We'll be done with it and we're like, time for work now.
pretty much.
Almost like we're like, all right, time to go see Ozzy.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, God, that was a long day. That was a great day, though. But yeah, Kill Bill, Whole Bloody Affair. And then, as I mentioned, we'll be live for 2 more weeks for these Studio Ghibli films. And then we'll be done and ready for Christmas. And that'll be another year done. 2025 will be out and 2026 will be in. I've checked what movies are coming out next year. It's not looking good, but we'll keep the live streams coming. And we've got a lot of plans for next year. So appreciate... go on, sorry.
Toy Story 5.
Toy Story 5. Woo! Love it. Well, we've already announced it. We've got our Pixar retrospective, and then Toy Story 5 will sort of be coming out some point during that. We'll figure it all out.
they'll do something like, remember in Toy Story 3 where they had like there was the dinosaur toy sending an email to another dinosaur toy. What's better, and they'll do that. Jesse will like get in contact with Woody via some by email.
No. It's gonna happen. We've got the iPad villain in this one, haven't we? So yeah.
Just really.
Well, we've got that to look forward to anyway. So big stuff coming for 2026, a lot of ideas. And obviously, if you want to see any videos or anything like that, do, you know, drop us a comment or whatever saying it'd be cool if you guys did this, and we'll take it on board. Big thank you to everyone who's tuned in and commented tonight. You guys are great, and we'll catch you on the next video. Take care, everyone.